$0. Not broke. Zero. The kind of zero where you check your balance 3 times because you're sure the app is wrong. This isn't a story about money. It's a story about what money does to the person holding it. Because here's the truth. No one says out loud, the dollar amount in your account isn't just a number. It's a mirror. And every time it changes, so do you. Level 1. $0 to $1,000. Survival mode. You don't think about wealth at this level. You think about Tuesday. Can you make rent on Tuesday? Can you afford the $4.79 box of pasta and still have enough left for the bus? Every single financial decision at zero feels like defusing a bomb. One wrong move and everything collapses. Psychologists call this scarcity mindset, but that term is too clean for what it actually feels like. What it actually feels like is noise. Constant, low-frequency noise in the back of your skull that never fully turns off. Not at dinner, not in bed, not when you're laughing at something on your phone at 11 p.m., pretending everything is fine. At $0 to $1,000, money isn't a tool. It's oxygen. You don't think about growing it, you think about not losing it. And here's what that does to you psychologically. It narrows your vision. Research from Harvard shows that financial scarcity literally reduces cognitive bandwidth. The mental energy you're spending, calculating whether you can afford a $12 copay, is mental energy you're not spending on long-term thinking, creativity, or ambition. Poverty doesn't just take your money. It quietly borrows pieces of your mind. The person you are at $0 is not lazy, not broken, not lacking discipline. They are someone running a marathon with weights chained to their ankles while everyone watching from the sidelines shouts, "Just run faster." Level 2. $1,000 to $10,000. The first exhale. The first time you cross $1,000 in savings, something shifts. It's not dramatic. There are no fireworks. You don't feel rich. But for the first time in maybe years, you sleep a little differently. The noise doesn't disappear, but it gets quieter. Like someone turned the volume down from a 7 to a 4. $1,000 is not security, but it is the first breath of it. At this level, you start making slightly different decisions. You stop buying the cheapest option automatically. You start looking 2 weeks ahead instead of just 2 days. You begin, barely, tentatively, to imagine that money could accumulate rather than just flow through you like water through open hands. This is where the first identity shift happens. You stop identifying as someone who has nothing. You start identifying as someone who is building something. That distinction sounds small. It is not small. It is everything. By $10,000, the first 5-figure number, something measurable changes in how the world responds to you too. You can negotiate from a slightly different position. You can say no to a bad opportunity because you have a small buffer behind you. You can absorb a $600 car repair without your entire life unraveling. Financial advisors call this an emergency fund. What it actually is the first chapter of freedom. Level 3. $10,000 to $50,000. The dangerous middle here is where most people get lost. You have enough to feel comfortable, not enough to be truly free. And that gap, that specific gap between comfortable and free, is where some of the most destructive financial decisions of a person's life get made. Because at $10,000 to $50,000, you start to feel wealthy before you are wealthy. You upgrade the apartment. You lease the car you always wanted. You start saying yes to things you said no to for years. The nicer restaurant, the weekend trip, the newer phone. Because finally, you've earned it. And in many ways, you have. But here's the cold truth. Lifestyle inflation is almost always invisible when it's happening to you. You don't wake up one morning and decide to spend $3,200 a month instead of $2,100. It happens in increments so small, they feel like natural progress. A better gym, a standing dinner reservation, a streaming service here, a subscription box there. And suddenly, your $50,000 savings is not growing. It is holding still. And holding still, against inflation, against time, against the compound interest your money could be earning, is quietly going backward. The psychological trap at this level is identity-based. You have worked hard. You deserve better things. And that is true. But deserving better things and buying them on a timeline that undermines your actual financial progression, those are two very different conversations that most people never separate. Level 3 is where the wealthy diverge from the temporarily comfortable. The ones who build something real look at $50,000 and see it as fuel. The others look at it and finally exhale, and in that exhale, slowly spend it back to zero. Level 4, $50,000 to $250,000. The quiet power. Something subtle happens around $100,000 that no one warns you about. You start getting quieter about money, not because you're ashamed, because for the first time, you understand that the people talking loudest about wealth, the ones posting the watches and the vacations and the spreadsheets of passive income, they are almost never the ones building it. Real accumulation, at this level, becomes a private project. At $50,000 to $250,000, money starts behaving differently. If it's invested in index funds, in a diversified portfolio, in appreciating assets, it begins to generate motion on its own. Small motion. $200 one month, $800 the next. But motion. For the first time in your life, money is moving without you moving first. This is the level where compound interest stops being a concept you learned in school and becomes something you feel. You check the account, not with dread, but with something closer to curiosity. You start to understand, viscerally, not just intellectually, why time in the market matters more than timing the market. But here's the psychological weight no one talks about at this level. The isolation. When you're broke, everyone around you is broke too. The struggle is shared. There is community in it. But as you move into six-figure territory, a quiet distance begins to open between you and the people you grew up with. You can't fully explain why you're not going to the group vacation. You can't tell your family you're reinvesting your bonus instead of upgrading your car. You start having two conversations. The one happening out loud, and the one happening inside your spreadsheet at midnight. The person you're becoming at $250,000 is more disciplined, more intentional, more forward-looking than the person you were at $10,000. But they are also, quietly, lonelier. Level 5, $250,000 to $1 million. The first real threshold. This is the level where the rules change, not morally, structurally. The actual mechanics of how money works begin to operate differently at $250,000 and beyond. At this level, you stop being just a consumer of the financial system and start becoming someone the financial system is interested in. Banks call you, advisors reach out, products exist that were not available to you before, tax advantage structures, alternative investments, real estate vehicles that require minimum contributions you couldn't have imagined at $10,000. And the psychological shift is significant, because for the first time, you start thinking in decades instead of months. You're not asking, can I pay rent this Tuesday? You're asking, what does this look like in 23 years? You start thinking about your children's financial position before they're born. You start thinking about tax strategy, not just for this year, but for the next decade. Time becomes the asset you are most protective of, not because you have more of it, but because you finally understand what it costs. The first $1 million, is the number most people carry in their heads as the definition of rich. And here's the complicated truth about it. It is both more and less than you imagined. More, because the psychological freedom it represents is real. The noise is gone. The Tuesday dread is gone. You have genuine options, and options are the most underrated form of wealth that exists. Less, because $1 million in a world where a modest house in a major city costs $800,000, where healthcare is catastrophically expensive, where inflation erodes purchasing power every year, does not feel like arriving. It feels like the beginning of a different kind of work. Level 6, $1 million to $10 million. The identity rebuild. Here is where it gets philosophically complicated. Because by $1 million to $10 million, the money is no longer the primary problem. You are. At every level before this, the obstacle was external. Not enough income, not enough margin, not enough access. But at this level, the obstacles become internal. Who are you when money is no longer the thing you're fighting for? What do you want when you can afford most of what you thought you wanted, and discover that some of it feels hollow? This is the level where people quietly go looking for meaning in ways they never expected. Some find it in philanthropy. Some find it in building companies, not for the money, but for the problem they solve. Some, and this is more common than anyone admits, find themselves profoundly lost. Because for 20 years, the goal was, get here. And now they're here. And no one told them what came next. The person at $10 million has more freedom than 99% of the world. They also carry a particular kind of weight, the weight of having no more excuses. No more, I would do this if I only had the resources. The resources exist. The question becomes whether the person does. The truth about all of it. Money changes you. That is not a warning. That is not a judgment. It is simply what happens. At $0, it makes you smaller, tighter, more anxious, more reactive. At $10,000, it gives you your first real breath. At $100,000, it gives you options. At $1 million, it gives you silence. The absence of financial noise that most people have lived with so long, they don't even notice it anymore. At $10 million, it gives you something harder than any of the previous levels. The question of what you actually want from the one life you have. The goal was never the number. The number was always just the mirror. And the real question, the one worth sitting with tonight, is not how do I get to the next level. It's who do I want to be when I get there?